Hey, listen up, y'all. I'm gonna shout out this young gun right here because he's trying to do his thing. Joseph Jaffe, not famous. Probably rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm famous because, he not famous. And he like, yo, let me call my famous friends and see if they'll shout me out and make me more famous, sir. Right? But so, Joseph Jaffe, man, it's cool. You got your late night talk show popping off. That's what's dope. Streaming, been doing your thing, man. Started this in March of the 2020, which is tough throughout the years, but booking great guests, man. Jamal Mashboard, James Rollins, steady building it, man. Keep it popping off, man. Keep building your brand, man. Believe in yourself. Keep going hard. All right, that's what it's all about. One of these days. This little acronym of yours, not famous, is not going to be true. People going to see you in the mall and be like, I know who you is. Them going to be your cousins saying it all incorrect like that. But you know what I'm saying? You know what you going to do. What you going to do? They family. All right, bro. I'll holler.
A spring in your step. There is a twinkle in your eye.
I can throw a rhyme down for you real quick. Yes, they call me Thrill. They say that I'm the man. You disagree, how could you? Let me make you understand.
Should we bring her on the show? And anybody find me? And there she is.
Fresh as some bread. Pull right from the oven. When you feel rejected, you get some my loving.
Take on me.
She looks wonderful. Mom looks amazing.
Somebody to. Okay, Mo, bugger off now. I've got to show it to you. Love.
Like that?
Joseph Jaffe, ladies and gentlemen.
You just made the new intro of the show. Yes. It's another episode of Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous. And why would I be famous? How could I be famous when I have the person, the kingmaker, the queen maker, the person that is making other people famous, or maybe taking famous people and making them, to quote my good friend Cedric, famouser, more famouser. We're talking about Cheryl Hunter, and she will be my guest on the show, and she will be coming up, and we're going to talk about celebrity and anti-celebrity, and we'll talk about whatever she wants to talk about, and we'll get to see if she's a liar or not, because we're going to be playing Two Truths and a Lie. Now, of course, some people have dry January. I have why January. This is my why. It's 2024, and it's an opportunity just to manifest it, just to say it, just to spew it out of my mouth so that it becomes a reality, birth it into the universe. As a teacher, facilitator, and coach, I help high aspiring entrepreneurs, owners, and their leadership teams get unstuck, return to growth, and become forever changed. I love the way it rolls off the tongue. Speaking of which, Forever Changed is the title of my new book, my 6th book, How a Global Pandemic Changed My Direction, My Purpose, and My Life. You can find out more at foreverchange.life. Get a life. How am I changing? Go to foreverchange.life. And I'm actually kind of excited about this. I just created my own GPT, Forever Change GPT. You can actually go and hang out with the artificially intelligent version of me that will ask you, did you show up for yourself today? Did you show up for others? If today was your last day on this planet, would it have been worthwhile? If today was your only day on this planet, would it have been worthwhile? The answer has to be yes. Otherwise, what the hell are you doing? Watch the show, and as soon as the show is done, go out and make that change. Love what you do, be true to yourself, and stay the course. I also started business coaching with EOS last year, helping companies and entrepreneurs get unstuck, truly return to growth, and get what they want from their business. Now, we live in a world where apathy is an epidemic. So I don't want you to have no opinion of me. I want you to love me. Of course, we all want to be loved, but I don't mind if you hate me. I don't even mind if you intensely dislike me, but why would you? Just have an opinion. And if you like the show, please go to bit.ly/subscribe to the show in order to subscribe to the show. Also, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Eastern Standard Time, with this Face for Radio that I have, we do an audio-only, audio-first session Monday through Friday. And if you like, just come and hang out with us, discord.gg/Alpha Collective. Speaking of which, we just did a really, really great session on apathy, on why people just don't give a damn, why they're so indifferent, why they're so closed and desensitized and alone and isolated. Here's a hint: social media, but more on that later. And if you don't want to join us live, please just, go and subscribe to the pod, bit.ly/Collective Cafe to go. Take a little bit of virtual coffee with you. But now it is time for our seated soliloquy, because I am seated and it is a monologue, hence seated soliloquy. It is always an homage that is to my guest, and in honor, a hat tip to my guest. And this one is called shameless self-promotion. I've got to tell you, we do a lousy job of being able to promote ourselves. We're intimidated. We have imposter syndrome. We don't feel that we deserve to speak up and advocate on behalf of ourselves. And I know, even myself, I used to be a lot more shameless. And now I'm a little bit more intimidated, a little bit more reserved. And so I retreat into my shell. I take the extroverted, introverted, extroverted, introverted approach, while other people that are louder than me, maybe not clearer, maybe filled with more noise, not necessarily signal, end up on the stages. But I was actually thinking about this phrase, shameless self-promotion. And I think the key is the word shameless. Shameless is not a bad thing. It means no shame. You shouldn't have shame. You shouldn't be able to feel shamed. You shouldn't feel intimidated. You shouldn't feel inhibited when you are talking about, when you are shaking what mama gave you. You're shaking your money maker. You're doing whatever the hell you have to do to actually say, I have a talent, I have a gift, I have something to contribute. I can make the world a better place, and I'm going to talk about it. And hopefully, you're going to want to listen, and you're going to want to lean in, and you're going to want to learn more. And so my message, and Cheryl has inspired me today, is to up the self-promotion, up the shameless self-promotion, reclaim the word shameless, because shameless means less shame and maybe even no shame, and no shame means no blame, and it means being able to go out there and make sure you have a solution to the old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to see it, it doesn't make a sound. And now someone who absolutely is going to make a sound is my guest, Cheryl Hunter. A little bit about her. She's a TV host and media personality who's been featured worldwide by major media outlets, including People Magazine, Goldcast, Dr. Phil, NBC News, Dr. Oz, CNN, Fox, PBS, and so much more. Cheryl believes in the potential that the right message has to change the world. So in addition to writing and producing for HBO, CBS, Paramount Pictures, and NBC, Cheryl and her team of major media gatekeepers help mission-driven experts leverage the power of major media to get their message, story, and business known by millions. Forbes magazine says that Cheryl has something very important to teach about reaching your fullest potential on this planet. I'm fired up. I hope you are too. But first, please watch this.
She's here today to tell her remarkable story. This is Cheryl Hunter.
Bring me down.
If you don't know my story, I was abducted by two criminals when I was a teenager. In the process of turning my own life around, once I was free, I created an educational framework that anybody can use to overcome adversity. I have to tell my story. It makes no difference if I've gone through this and transformed it, but never share it, My having gone through that then means nothing if I don't give it away.
Author of Use It, Turning Setbacks into Success.
Well, you can't put the genie back in the bottle that's here now. You know, we've unleashed something. We've given people a voice for the first time, or people have taken the voice for themselves. And that can't be undone. We can't unring that bell. But what we can do now is carry the conversation forward. Instead of focusing on the things that you couldn't control, we started to look at what are the things that you can control right now.
What do you suggest?
I suggest that we stop making the victims guilty until proven innocent. That we actually, culturally, societally, start relating to this as our problem. I was going to do what I had done before and find a way to give it away.
I hope you keep talking. I hope you keep teaching, because I know you inspire people when you talk. Don't you all agree?
Do we agree? We agree. Please keep talking. I almost was sad that I had to cut it off at 1.5 minutes because there was another 2 minutes to go. What I meant to do was this. There we go. This is the problem with this production studio I have of 25 people in the room. Anyway, Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Oh, Joseph, it's a delight. Thank you.
So you said something, there was something beautiful in that intro reel, which is when you've got something to say, there's almost this, it's like an obligation. It's almost like a responsibility to bring that message to the world. How many people actually believe that they have something to say and something worth saying?
Well, it goes right back to what you were talking about earlier with the shameless self-promotion. I think so often we tend to think that if I share something, it's about me, rather than if I share my journey, my experience, my expertise, my insight. It's actually about the person to whom we're speaking, which is a whole different context. And if we contextualize what we're saying in that place, if we stand there, what positive impact could this have on the listener, on the recipient? Then I think our concern with ourselves and whether or not we're being self-promotional, I think that sort of falls by the wayside. Don't you?
I do, and I think it's just such a key point as well, which is when it's only about you and always about you and not about the other people in the room, then it truly is the bad shameless or shameful. But when you're connecting and you're actually empathizing and almost putting yourself in the other person's shoes, it just flips. It flips on its head. So yeah, totally.
I think the deepest wish, or one of them, that each of us has as a human being is to contribute, is to have our life make a difference, is to make the path easier for others. I grew up on a horse ranch in really remote Colorado, in the Rockies, and in what was truly the flyover zone. And I used to lie out there on the meadows, lying down with cows standing around me and horses. And I would look up at the plains and think, God, I want to be the girl in the plane looking down at the girl on the ground here. I want to be going places. But if I were to be someone who's going places, I'd have to be helping people in some way. And the only thing I could think of at the time that I was any good at was riding and training horses. And I thought, well, okay, there are people way better than I am. I mean, I had a coach, I had somebody I worked with so I could compete better. And I thought, well, I'm not the best at that. What could I do to help people? And, that was at young, tender age, and I hadn't lived much, and I didn't know ways to help. But each one of us has ways that we can contribute or help or provide things for others. And I'm talking about just, being there and being a caring ear, on all the way on up to what have we spent a lifetime amassing expertise in? What is it that is our life's work? How do we help people? what do we offer and provide? And I think if in those cases where we've got something that we really can provide that makes a profound difference in the lives of others, it's our duty to give it away and let the world know that we exist. And that's never been more difficult than now. Courtesy of social media, every person on the planet has access to a microphone now. It's no longer the days of, if you build it, they will come. It is just like you said at the beginning, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it. And
So
that's
there is
tough.
so much noise. There is so much noise out there. As you say, it's the blessing and the curse. Everyone has a microphone, but everyone has a microphone. So how do you become that hot knife that slices through butter? How do you become the signal amongst all that noise?
Well, that's the big question. That's the real game. That's the ungettable get these days. How do you earn the attention of the world or the people that you want to serve? So I have the blessing of having thousands of people reach out to us each month that want to get their message out to the world. And every morning I have a meeting with my team, and I was on the phone with them this morning, and one of them said, "Hey, I was on the phone yesterday with a guy that says, I earn $1 million a month. We have this wonderful technology. We're doing so well. Just who are you going to get me on TV with? And how are you going to do this?" And my person on my team, Liam, is leading him through this inquiry to find out, do you have something that the media wants? And the guy says, "I don't need any part of this. Did you not hear me? I earn $1 million a month." And Liam asks him, "Even earning $1 million a month, you can't buy your way on to NBC News. What sucks most about that?" It's like, even the big, rich, and powerful, or, just a teenager who wants to make makeup tutorials on TikTok. How in the hell do you get people to listen? And you and I were having an interesting conversation as we first joined today about celebrity and how that's sort of taken over. It's the zeitgeist. We're in this era of celebrity, but by and large, people are using that celebrity for not a goddamn thing. They're using it to promote getting more likes. What?
Right. Famous for being
It's
famous.
for, like, just what? Right. Like, what?
I decided, by the way, I'm telling you your next book.
Okay.
With 600 guests on the show, I pride myself on being able to come up with book titles for my guests. And your next book, ladies and gentlemen, look out for wherever books are sold, is called The Ungettable Get. I love that. The Ungettable Get. It's the question of questions. It's the ungettable get. But going back to what you were saying, I've joked that sometimes I feel like the only way to get noticed is to go on Survivor or The Bachelor, which is a problem because I'm married. But is that the only way to kind of boost your followers? Play the game by being cast as, I don't know, the South African or whatever the case may be. I mean, clearly, if it comes down to that, we've lost, or I've lost for sure.
It used to be that all you had to do was put yourself out there,
Right.
hang up the proverbial shingle, the "if you build it, they will come" myth. Realized, well, I'm in business now. Who cares?
Yeah.
Or
Wait, I've got it. Under new management.
Yeah,
Under new management. Oh, great.
Yes, but the equivalent of that today is now open Saturdays. Or
Yeah.
I have a new website.
Right.
Drum roll. and I don't mean to be, God, uncaring about it. One of my best friends has been a real estate broker for decades. And we were on a walk the other night, and we just solve the problems of the world when we're on our evening walks, and says to me, he's got such expertise, been doing this and had hundreds of realtors under his tutelage over the years, and said, I'm thinking of making a series of videos, and I'm going to tell people about the marketplace and sort of quell their fears and ease their trepidations about now being the time, or being stuck in their homes and because of interest rates being where they are. And arguably, this is a message the world needs to hear, at least in this localized area. In the United States, interest rates have been raising, and people's concerns have been falling, and it would seemingly be advantageous. And I said, that sounds great. How are you going to let people know you exist? And he said, and this is a brilliant, successful man, I was thinking about maybe wearing a funny hat. And I go, like, what? Where? In the videos, because then it's catchy. To whom? Like, who's going to see the funny hat? And
Yeah, that's my shtick, right?
Yeah, it is incumbent upon us, if we've got something to offer, to figure out how in the hell do I get it to my audience, to the people that need to hear it, to those that I must serve, to those that are out there quite literally dying for help. There's a woman who's a client of ours who helps end eating disorders. And she said, I knew millions of people were out there searching for it because I know the enormity of the problem. But when they landed upon me, if they ever did, they'd have no way of knowing I'm the real deal. And now that, NBC News says she's the expert in ending eating disorders, they've got some idea, if you're comparing head to head, this option versus that one, which one are you going to go with if you don't know them? But it's how I know the pain, not just that I hear from the people that come through our doors, but after I was kidnapped, as you showed in that video, after I survived. And I thought to myself, well, okay, the irony is, Joseph, I was held captive, and I said, God, all I need to do is just be free. If I can just be free. It was my obsession. Obviously, it doesn't take a whole lot of deduction to extrapolate that. I needed to be free. And then suddenly, for whatever reason, these criminals dump me, leave me for dead on this grassy piece of land, and I'm free. And yet I'm not. I've got this new kind of captivity between my ears where I'm replaying the kidnapping and the brutalization, and you can fill in all the gory details with your mind, but I'm plotting revenge and how I'm going to just ruin these men and what I'm going to do. And my life has now been taken over by this horrible new captivity, and I have no idea what to do about it. And in my young, tender teen years, I had no idea. I decided just to pretend it didn't happen. Not a particularly good strategy. But then I went on to realize, look, I'm not the first person to go through trauma. Let me talk with others who've gone through it, see what they did. I mean, sure, I could have read books, and I read many. I could have gone to therapy, but I didn't want to tell anyone what had happened. I decided pretending it didn't happen was really a good strategy. So I just started listening to other survivors. I volunteered at old age homes, and there were war vets, Holocaust survivors, people who'd been through all kinds of atrocities. And I made it my job to understand why some overcame and others never did. And ultimately, I distilled the things that they had done and not done down to a set of principles. And I codified it, made it into an educational framework that I used to overcome. And I started beta testing it with other survivors, sexual assault, trafficking, violent crime, etc. And it worked. Now, I had gone on, and at this age, what I did as my day job was I wrote network television, as you'd mentioned earlier. And I could see the power latent within major media. Not even latent. I could see the power that it had to shape a collective narrative. Those water cooler moments where we all stand around as a country or a world and talk about the same thing at the same time. And I thought, man, what if we used that to get messages of hope out to the world? What if we could get something like this education that I created, this knowledge that we can overcome any adversity? What if people knew that? And here I was connected. I wrote network television in the States. How do I get that out to the world? But it took me a decade as someone who was ostensibly an insider to get that message out. So I've grappled with this question. How in the hell do I get something seen? I know the pain of wanting to help, being able to help, and being unable to help at the same time because nobody knows, because I'm veiled by this cloak of invisibility. It was maddening. I figured it out though. And that's why I'm saying it's incumbent upon each of us to either figure it out or use somebody else's formula or something. Find a way to let the world know, hey, I've got this and it can help. Because there's this maddening thing that when we're going through real adversity and difficulty, this maddening thing that's said, and we say it well-intendedly, hey, you're not alone. But son of a gun, if it ain't maybe that's true in like theory, we're all connected. What the hell? People used to say that when I was in the darkest of dark after the kidnapping. I would just say to friends, I'm really depressed without saying why. And they're like, well, you're not alone. And I'm like, well, shit, I sure feels like it in the middle of the night when I'm lying here by myself, 3 a.m., looking at the ceiling saying, I cannot go on. I cannot go on like this. But if we could, each of us reach out, each of us who can help in some way, and let people know you're truly not alone. Here's a way to overcome. Here's my solution, my suggestion, my insight.
I really, truly am touched and appreciate you sharing your story. And, the thing that really struck me, and first of all, I do a lot of mentoring of startups. When a founder has a personal story, when they have a pain, a frustration, when they can answer the question, whether I ask it or not, why you? Why now? Why you and not 10,000 other people? It is the story. It is, and it can be curiosity and frustration, and it can be personal and professional pain. That's the hot knife that slices through butter. And then there was also the frustration that you spoke about, which is, can you imagine not the millionaire, not the one with millions who just expected, almost demanded, commanded, gratuitously, put me on, get me major media because I've got the check. But can you imagine the person who has the story, who has something to say? It's inside, it's bottled up inside, it's almost ready to explode. And they can't find someone who wants to hear them, and they can't release it, and they can't help. And I see now that's the spark that has brought you to where you are today and has helped so many people.
Thank you, Joseph. There's most of the people we work with are business owners, but as you speak about that person with this burning message on their heart that wants to help but can't. No one will listen. I think of a client of ours, John Michael Lander. He was a gold medalist at the World Games. He was a platform diver, Olympic bound, extraordinary at what he did. But he was groomed and trafficked by his coaches and those entrusted with his care as a young male athlete. And finally, he quit. The pain was too great for him. The cognitive dissonance between these are my caretakers, these are the people I entrust with my sports career, and yet they're doing this to me. It was too great. He had to quit. And by the time he found us all those years later, I was the one on the phone with him. And he said, do you know how many times I've wanted to give away or sell these gold medals? I've tried over the years so many times because they represent nothing but pain. No one has ever believed me. And I said, well, I believe you. Let's see if we can help. And we did. He has not only been on major media all over the world, but since we started working together, he recently was featured in, George Clooney did a documentary about the Ohio State scandal with these coaches and the grooming and trafficking. John Michael starred in this documentary, but he's also now working with law enforcement around the nation, including the FBI, on how it's done, where an organization is groomed, the family is groomed, and then the athlete is groomed. And he's putting his protocol out there so that people can learn. Last year, he addressed Congress to speak about the same thing. And what does child grooming and internet grooming look like? And he's become this force of nature. And he had come from being someone that no one would listen to someone that is heralded as the authority on the subject. And I tell you, it is such a profound gift to be able to empower these mission-driven people with the tools to get their message out to the right people, because because their work is so important. And, in my own journey, as I was trying to get this overcome trauma message out there, overcome adversity, I saw people on TV. There was a girl I saw that had been abducted, and they had her on a program. I'm trying to think what it was. It was CNN, Piers Morgan. And she was a victim, a survivor, but she was still so actively traumatized. God love her. And they were asking her all these questions that were triggering her and sending her back into that trauma. And by the grace of God, I did a lot of work. I did a lot of personal development. I was able to overcome. And I thought, God, this girl should not be on there. She's being re-traumatized. And she wasn't able to speak coherently in a way that provided the insight that the viewers could use to understand, what does it look like for the family, for a victim? How do we prevent this? It was important to get my message out there. And I thought, God, the fact that I am silenced by this anonymity that I can't seem to pierce, the cost is too high. There are others being kidnapped right now that if I could give them the tools on how not to be, I could stop this epidemic. I could help the parents. I could help those who have already gone through it. I could help people who've gone through adversity in any context, but I was invisible, anonymous, and nobody knew I existed. I had to crack the code on that. It wasn't just me being frustrated and staying awake every night. It was that I knew the fate that these people were suffering without my help. And once I did get my message out in front of hundreds of millions of viewers, I realized, you know what? God bless, there's an entire industry dedicated to helping people overcome trauma. I'm going to leave that to the psychologists and psychotherapists and
Right.
psychiatrists. I am now going to help those other mission-driven people pierce the veils of anonymity so that they can share their message with the world. It's too damn important not to. If you look at the state of the world, it looks like it looks because those that have something of value to share can't. And I'm unwilling to have that continue. So I pulled together the journalists that I met on the way and the gatekeepers and said, here's what I want to do. Let's rally around these mission-driven entrepreneurs and help them find a voice in the way I have. And they were like, hell yeah, let's do it.
And the key is the concept of mission driven, because the reality is that we watch, and we have been almost sensitized or desensitized when we watch reality programming, which of course is anything but real. And everyone has a story that seems to be more and more and more traumatic than the next. And there's trauma dumping. And then one sits back and goes, but how do I break through? How do I get noticed? Do I necessarily have to have trauma in my life? And I think you've answered the question, which is, but if you have mission and vision and purpose and a why, and you are motivated to touch someone's life and to make a difference, and you are determined, that should be enough, and hopefully will be enough. And I want to tell you that I always find a quote for my guests. This is the quote that I found for you. Heroes must see to their own fame. No one else will. And this is from Gore Vidal in the novel Julian. What I love about it is the ability to see people as a hero, and actually say, you are the hero. You are the hero of your own story, of your own narrative. And in order to be the hero, you must believe that you can save, that you can redeem, maybe even yourself, but see to your own fame, because nobody else will. I just thought it was a very powerful quote. And so this is the one I selected for you.
Thank you. It is a beautiful quote. And back to our prior conversation, it's not about seeking celebrity, but about being of service
Right.
through the message, the mission, the work that we do. And to your question or point about trauma, no. Most of the people that we help have no trauma. But rather they do have a story. There's these amazing husband and wife that came to us. They're college planners from Atlanta, Danny and Karen Umali. And one of the things that they said when they came in, it was, during the pandemic, kids weren't going to college in person. They didn't want to go. And parents thought, oh, heaven forfend, they'll call them back in person. I don't want my kids going. And so it was, the college entrance rates were falling precipitously. And as college planners, Danny and Karen were having a hard time in their business. And after a decade in business, they were like, are we going to go out of business? We don't know what to do. And they came to us to figure out, what do we do to let people know we're out there? And we have such a different way of doing things. And Danny said, as we were having initial conversations, I want to make sure we don't talk about, I never went to college. So I want to make sure we never mention that. Like, we should have an NDA in place or something like that. And I was like, let's go back to that you never went to college thing. Hold up for a second. Why? And he goes, well, yeah, I'm the quintessential son of an immigrant. My mom was a single mom, Filipino mom, raising us. College? We could barely keep food on the table. She was working so many jobs. We were each taking care of each other. We didn't. I started this business. Thinking I would have to keep that hidden. And I said, but why did you start the business? Well, to give other people the chance I didn't have. And you want to hide that?
Yeah, it sounds like a unique.
Right? Talk about a unique selling proposition that will have people beat a path to your door.
And it's honest, and it's real, and it is what it is. It is what it is. You can't put lipstick on a pig, but in this particular case, there is something beautiful there, which is the flawed nature of, I mean, whatever you want to look at it. I'm trying not to think like a like a storyteller, whether it's an arc of redemption, but it really goes back to Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. This is the hero's journey, and we are all heroes, and we must see to our own fame, because the only person that will, no one will, except for Cheryl Hunter. That's just a little, little bit of a segue.
PM Joseph Jaffe.
I mean, come on. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No,
God.
but I bring it back as well because I felt like this show began in March of 2020, and I felt like our lives had become manic depressive. The highs were insanely high and euphoric, and the lows were unbelievably low. And often we'd get the same. We get both of them in about 10 minutes. We'd feel good. We'd feel a little encouraged. And then we'd see what was going on television, and we'd get depressed, or we'd feel good about ourselves. And then we'd see somebody flame us, or troll us on social media. And in a way that became kind of part of the inspiration for the show, which is, let's go from the sublime to the ridiculous. Let's laugh and let's cry, and let's laugh again, and let's cry with laughter, and then let's cry with tears. And so that's why I've decided to go to the ridiculous, Cheryl, which is to go into two truths and a lie, because exactly. And tune in, lean in, don't you dare miss a pitch. This, by the way, was created by AI and performed by AI, which is kind of insane. All right, so we're going to twist and we're going to turn reality, which is Cheryl Hunter is in the truth business. She makes sure that people's truth gets out. But in this particular case, there is a fib, and you're going to just have to figure out what the fib is and see how good a liar she really is.
The way that you pronounce fib is so fantastic. You have to say it one more time.
It's fib. It's my Long Island accent. So did you know, this could be true and this could be a lie, but did you know that Cheryl Hunter, not only did she write for major networks, but apparently she has been featured, in fact, acted in an episode of Seinfeld. So tell us a little bit about this story, Cheryl.
Yes, Seinfeld. Now, how are we going to know if I tell a story? How are we going to know what is true and what is a fib?
I like the way you say fib. Well, you're going to have to go to 2T1L_Cheryl Hunter and vote, and you might win $1 million by voting correctly, which could be a fib as well. Tell us about the story. Let's assume all three are true.
Yes. So in Seinfeld, I got to out crazy Kramer, which if you watch the show, he was a little loopy and crazy himself, but that was the role.
Well, I'm
crazier than Kramer.
I'm going to go and seek that out, even if it disqualifies this, but that's interesting. To out crazy Kramer takes some doing. Well, here's another thing as well, that apparently you were also a voice actor in an animated series, which may or may not have been The Simpsons. So tell us about some of your voice acting.
Well, after I was kidnapped, one of the things that I did to keep myself distant from people was I became funny. I mean, I'd always been funny, like with my immediate family and stuff growing up, but I used to do voices and accents to keep people sort of separate from me and keep them laughing and not let anybody get too close. So it was, I used to, for years, I pretended that I was English, for example. It all came into good use later on in the
Did you used to say words like fib?
No, fib was never an actual word that I used. But I could
You
do
know,
a
people who
mean.
tell fibs are called fibbers. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah.
Right, Cheryl, we've got one more truth or lie, which apparently you were a lifeguard at Caesar's Palace, and we actually have a photograph that we had to go and look deep into the annals, but apparently you tried to destroy all the evidence, but we found this one.
You did a
So
very good job with the Baywatch suit there. We didn't get to wear the togas and garland, but as a lifeguard in Las Vegas, one of the things that I really enjoyed doing was, you know what poker chips are?
do I?
And most people, a lot of people
I've
drink in Las
lost many
Vegas.
of them.
Yes, people drink in Las Vegas and would have them in their swimming suits, and they would drop them at the bottom of the pool, and the bottom of the pool was quite deep, and I would go diving for poker chips because we didn't get paid well.
Oh, that's very interesting. So you made a pretty penny back in the day. All right. Well, listen, you know, I would apply for a job as a, as a lifeguard at Caesar's Palace, but apparently you need a 6-pack. I have a 0-pack. So unfortunately, don't call us, we'll call you. All right, Cheryl, let's get back to the subject at hand. Let's talk about getting known. Let's talk about magnifying oneself, especially if you have a story, especially if you feel like you have a purpose and a mission. One of the things that you talk about is how to almost become your own publicist and grab headlines anytime you want. I like where this could be going, because one might look at this and go, but I don't have the budget, I don't have the income, I don't have the money. How do I hire a big time publicist? How do I get those headlines when I don't have the budget right now?
Part of the journey that I took when I was a TV writer trying to get my own message in major media, I just thought, I knew that we had a publicist. I had a show at CBS Paramount Pictures, and as the co-creator of the show, I'm automatically a producer. And so I got to see the line items, and I could see publicity budgets, PR budgets, $410,000. And I'm like, what? Oh my God. But then I also realized, hey, publicists move the needle. Now, what I didn't know at the time was there's two kinds of publicists. The kind that has the connections, who can actually get you on TV. And then there's like the Main Street publicist, where they'll work with anybody. The kind that can get you on TV, they only work with celebrities. So there was no way I could get a publicist like that. I'm not a celebrity. And then I could hire the other kinds. And I hired many of them. And it kind of goes like this. Publicists will put you into a retainer agreement that's, there's somewhere $5,000 to $25,000 plus a month. And they say something like, hey, we can't guarantee it immediately. It takes some time. There's a runway. So we'll recommend that we're in a contract for 6 to 12 months. So you sit down with the partner at the firm, and they'll schmooze and wine and dine you. It's like dating, right? You go, oh, okay, I found a nice looking publicist. Okay. And then they sit down, wine and dine you, and tell you everything you want to hear. It's like you paint your blue sky vision for the future. It's like, do you want marriage? And they'll go, sure. They'll just tell you anything you want to hear. It's like, well, can I be on Good Morning America? Absolutely. How about the Today Show? You know it. Wow. Could I get my own TV series? Yeah.
I've been told that.
What's that?
I've been told that when my fifth book, Built to Suck, was published, I met with a publicist and said, look, here are my top 3: CNN, Howard Stern, and The Daily Show. Can you do it? Oh, yes, we can do it.
Absolutely. Then as soon as you
Still
sign
waiting.
the contract, it's like, it's back to the dating analogy. I don't want to be too crude here, but as soon as you seal the deal, the partner gone forevermore. The only time you'll ever see that person again who actually knows publicity is if you threaten to break the contract and leave. Or
Right.
if it expires and you're like, I got to take off, I've got nothing.
Oh,
Then
and
they'll come back and go, oh,
I want to
hey,
add one
don't
more
you
thing,
like
which
me?
is
Yeah.
I want to add one more thing, which is these things take time. They take 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, the runway, the road ahead. Plus, of course, there are no guarantees. We told you, right? There'd be no guarantees.
Yeah, and you're like, God, no guarantees is so hard to stomach when it's $15,000 every month for a year. That's kind of hard to stomach. But, let's say, hey, I'm a business owner. I know I've got marketing costs. So I'm already spending more than that on ads. I know. But whatever, you put that aside. Then the partner is gone and you're turned over to some junior associate whose role has churned 18 times in the past 3 months, and they know less about PR than you do. And the only thing you get every month, other than the whopping bill on your credit card, is a spreadsheet with here's all the places we submitted you that don't want you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like, wait, what? But you submitted me for that? That's not even what I do. And the junior associate knows less about PR than you do. They know less about your business than you ever will. They don't get it. And I thought, now I was a little thick in the head. I hired 3 or 4 of them before I learned my lesson. I was a glutton for punishment, wanted to throw away every dollar I ever had in years of a decade of my life. But it finally hit me. Well, hell, I'm going to have to learn how to do this myself. I'm going to have to learn to do what the big PR guys do, but do it right. Because when you leave, let's say you stay at a big PR firm and you get 1 or 2 things. They do this thing where they intercede with their connections so you can't even talk to them. If you were to get on a TV show or something, you have a proxy having that conversation with the network. You can't even talk to them. You could be an inventor, a brilliant business owner, a thought leader in some respect, but you're regarded as someone who cannot be entrusted with your own damn conversations. And I thought, you know what? There's got to be a better way. This is whack kookery. And so I that's why I pulled together all the journalists that I'd made relationships with, the producers and directors, and I was like, we've got to do this ourselves. And we did, because you need to learn to speak in the language of major media. You need to learn what a soundbite and a talking point and a compelling core message is. You need to learn how to stop talking about your business, but newsjack what's happening in current events in order to still seed your business and have people beat a path to your door because you've got the right messaging. You need to be media trained. All this stuff I had no idea about. But with all that in place, you can be positioned so that the gatekeepers look at you and they're like, I need you. Please come on my network. And
Please
that's a
look
good place
out.
to be.
Please look out for Cheryl Hunter's new book after The Ungettable Get, Whack Kookery. Whack Kookery inside the dysfunctional and bait and switch world of bad publicist and publicity. I love it. Whack Kookery. I see your fib and I raise you a whack kookery. So Cheryl, let's go back to that for a second. So what you've done in a way is, which I feel like really is a sign of security as opposed to insecurity. Security says, let me open up, the kimono. Let me lead you inside the sausage factory. Let me show you how it's made and give you the ability to do it yourself if you choose to. But of course, should you not wish to, or should you have other needs, or, so there's the ability to choose you, not because there is no other game in town, but because it is a choice, a free choice. There is no obligation. There is no FOMO. There is no pressure. You are the best of the best. And surely there is an aspirational wish or want, and yet there is still the ability to do it yourself, which I think kind of gives people options. And that's certainly reassuring, even to someone like myself.
Look, no one will ever understand what you do better than you.
Right.
No one will ever advocate for your brand, your message, your work better than you will. That it's a natural fit. And people come to us a lot who are like like the $1 million a month guy. I'm not doing shit myself. Don't you know who I am? Yeah, buddy. Nobody does. That's the problem. But it's, they'll say, I don't want to do this myself. But what's the alternative? You can't hire it out. I mean, you can. You feel free to go waste mid six figures on a publicist. I know people who have, or you could just figure it out. If you're that busy, have somebody on your team dedicated to that task. But if your mission is to serve people, but you have to let them know you exist. Because going right back to where you started, Joseph, it's a loud, crowded world.
Yeah. It's loud and it's crowded, and it appears to me, and what I take away from this is, if you're going to do this, do it properly. If you're going to go onto if you're going to get your shot, you shoot your shot, you take your shot, you make yourself indispensable to the network in terms of giving them the passion, the energy, the emotion, your best work. But also, I feel like there is another client in the room, and the client is actually the publicist, because of their social capital and social currency and their influence. Even though you might be paying them money, in many respects, they are your client as well, because it is an ecosystem, and it's one that actually says, hey, life is short. So when you get your shot, take it, make it, go for it, and never look back again, because it might be your only chance.
So do you mean the publicist of today that are out there, or do you mean you as your own publicist?
Well, I'm saying, if you are paying a publicist, also recognize, because I'm thinking as well, me as a client, just because you're paying someone money doesn't mean that you don't, in a way, owe them something, and that you aren't giving them something back. But as far as being your own publicist, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you, which is, you've got to be your own biggest fan. You've got to be your own biggest advocate. And yeah, totally. But yeah, no, I was referring actually to, I was thinking that working with a publicist, the whole relationship has to flip on its head. That's the point I was trying to make. Instead of the gratuitous, you owe me, I paid you money, where are my hits? Where are my insertions? Where are my impressions? Where are my opportunities? What have you done for me lately? I feel like that has to change. You've changed me in even my own outlook.
Well, I'm surprised, like kind of flummoxed actually, that after all of that conversation about publicists, that it's like, well, still I want to hire one. And I get it. Like, many people are in that place, but at least educate yourself on how it goes, so that if there's somebody listening that goes, yeah, okay, I should be my own publicist. You know what? I still want to hire one. At least know the way it goes. Like, it's going to be somewhere 9 to 12 months retainer, and somewhere, I don't know, 5 to 25K a month. Know that going in. Know that there will be no guarantees, and that's in your contract. Know that you will be handed off to an associate. And if you're not, in the rare case some PR firm says to you, no, the partner does all the work. Ask how many other clients they have. What do you've got? 50 other, 100
So
other, 200 people that you're working with? How much bandwidth can someone give you like that? I mean, by all means, if you're like, I'm not going to dedicate one moment to it, I'm not going to put that on my one staff member's desk, great. But don't I wouldn't be under any illusions.
No, this is interesting to me. So I was trying to look at both sides of the continuum, and I think what you're saying actually is very, very clearly is, all that glitters is not gold. And if you are, if this is something that somebody wants to do it for yourself. Do it, do it by yourself and for yourself with the right tools, with the right tips, with the right training as well. So actually, as you said, flummox, I was thinking, wait a second, what you are saying is that actually, there is a game and the jig is up. And, unless you're at the top of the top of the top, there is a better way, a different way, and that is to do it yourself.
I mean, look, I think so. You don't have to work with me. Nobody has to do that. I figured it out myself. It's just, it took me a decade to do that, to go from an unknown. I mean, I was working in the industry, in TV, but an unknown to being somebody who had hundreds of millions of views. So it just took a long time. You can figure it out on your own. I
Now
did.
you can shortcut
I'm a
it.
cowgirl from Colorado. It's not like I came with a whole lot of stuff that I already knew about publicity, for God's sake. So a person can figure it out on their own. But why? It took me a decade, and I had a lot of connections. But anyway, I'm saying if you go to a publicist, great, go. But just be informed about what it is. The kind
Right.
with connections won't work with you because you're not a celeb. You can go to the other kind. Just be prepared so that you can get the most value.
So Cheryl,
I'm on the side of I'm on the side of getting great work and great messages out to the world. Whatever that takes, that's what I'm for.
So Cheryl, people can go to cherylhunter.com/magnify your message. What are just perhaps 2 or 3, if not tips, or I'll ask it a different way. What should people do first? What should people do first? What should people do next if they want to magnify their own message, if they want to take control of their own destiny and be able to develop that narrative, that value proposition, get noticed, and deliver that compelling story to the world?
So start to think about, if you were going to share a message to the world, what would that message be? And then cut it in 1/4. Not even halve it, but cut it in a quarter, because the media is looking for short, punchy. They've got to catch attention and keep attention. So think from that perspective. And then one of the biggest myths that people have when they come to us is they think, well, what I do is different. What I do is better. What I do is cutting edge, or I'm first to market. Come to real terms with the fact that that buys you nothing. That and $5 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. It doesn't move the needle to be better or different or first to market or the one who holds a patent even. I know that sounds uncaring, but it's true. Know that. Good doesn't equal recognition, doesn't equal visibility. And if you can tell the truth to yourself about that, you'll be then asking yourself the right questions. Well, what does? How do I get the ear of the world? And then if you get on major media, back to what would I say? Know that they will not let you sit there and talk about your business, your product, your service. So what can you talk about that edifies you and serves their audience? And what I mean by edifies you, still has people go, I must know more. And then they beat a path to your doorway. That's an inquiry. That's one of the toughest things that it is for people to swallow. They're like, no, I have to go and talk about how my work is different. We've got a client named Dr. Michael Hutchison. He's a dentist. He invented a mouth guard that prevents concussion, like 90-something% of the time. It's remarkable. When he came to us, he had created this thing, got it manufactured, got it patented, and he created it because at 8 years of age, his son wanted to play contact sports. And he's like, oh, man, I know that 10,000 people a day suffer from debilitating concussions. I don't want that to happen to my son. What can I create? And do you know, when he came to us, he said, people are just laugh me out of meetings because I created a mouthpiece or a mouth guard that goes on the bottom jaw. And everyone goes, dude, have you never seen the NFL? Have you never seen a boxing ring? They go on the top. Don't you know anything? And he said, yeah, but that doesn't actually prevent concussion. It's why the NFL is plagued by concussions to the degree to which it is. This holds your jaw in what's called physiologic jaw position, and that prevents it. And he goes into the whole thing. He ended up getting so much major media. He's always on television now, but what he's talking about is concussion. Oh, and by the way, he happens to have this device that prevents them, etc. But he's not sitting there going, if you act now and call this number and all this. And he's now in conversation. He's now got the mouthpiece on famous athletes and is working with the U.S. Armed Forces to bring 125,000 of these to our active duty men and women who are in service of the nation. And it's like, wow. He said, do you know, it took me less work to become a dentist, to do the research on concussion, to build a prototype, to get it manufactured, to get the darn thing manufactured in regularly, to get it patented, to get it out, to all of this. That took less work than letting people know that I got it and that it can help them.
Wow.
And it's confounding to realize that.
That's
But
crazy.
it's crazy. But how many people out there have something like that where they go, I can cure cancer? Somebody could have the damn cure to cancer right now for all we know, Joseph, but nobody knows about it. That's the problem.
You know what that is? Seriously, that is whack kookery, in my opinion. I could sit down and tell the truth or fib with you for hours. But I want to leave people with a thought, because I feel like if you go back and you watch carefully and you listen carefully, all the crumbs are there, all the dots are there. And when you connect them, there is a beautiful tapestry in terms of how to go about being that signal, breaking through the clutter. And I just want to leave you with one thought, which I picked up right at the end there, Cheryl, which is, if you really are on mission, and if you really have that compelling story, when you work with someone, whether they're a publicist, whether they are an agency, whether they're a business partner, the fact that you can tell their stories as compelling as they might be able to, the fact that you feel as much passion about them as they perhaps do, I feel like that's a real litmus test. So it doesn't matter who it is. It could be a producer on the show. It could be, it could be someone even that you're sitting to, someone driving your Uber X. But when someone can tell your story, like perhaps you were able to tell your story, because of the way you told your story, you know that you are connecting and touching someone. And certainly that's how I feel having you in today, Cheryl. So I just want to thank you for sharing your story, sharing your clients' stories, and perhaps giving a lot of people hope that they can do it themselves.
Amen to that, because you can. Joseph, it's been such a delight. Thank you.
It has. And let me tell you, I know that one person who will be knocking down your door, and I mean probably literally, because that's just the way he is Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.